YouTube, Gen X, what's going on? Before I get started, let me do some background work. First of all, I'm not homophobic. I don't condone or agree with the lifestyle, the gay or lesbian lifestyle, but I'm not homophobic. And number two, in no way, shape, or form am I trying to say that those who are black and gay or black or lesbian have it easier. Or excuse me, have it easy. Not easier, but have it easy. That they shouldn't complain, they're not going through any sort of hardship or whatever. I'm not making that claim. What I'm going to speak to is this whole idea of the relative conversation of blacks who are gay or lesbian, right, have it harder than other groups who are gay and lesbian. So let's say white, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, you name it. So their members who are gay or lesbian have it easier. I'm speaking to that claim. I came across an article once again going over that sort of, it's one thing to be gay or lesbian, but to be black and gay or lesbian, that's like the worst of the worst. And that bothers me because I'm like, what is that based off of? You're creating this relative conversation where pretty much you're doing that sort of comparison. So for me, the question is, what are you going off of? Because what annoys me is the failure to understand that you don't hear other groups complaining about not fitting in with their cultural, their racial or ethnic group, not because they're accepted and it's easy, but because they understand that it's not going to work. They understand that their racial or ethnic group isn't going to stand for their lifestyle. And they're not going to change their sexual orientation. So you have this sort of, situation where you have two groups that are unwilling to move or negotiate. I'm not changing my sexual orientation. We're not trying to accommodate you. So we're going to go our separate ways. So those who are gay and lesbian have said, hey, well, we need to form our own community or join a community that's based off of our sexual orientation and not race or ethnicity. But to sit here and tell me that, there's no problems if, let's say, you're Middle Eastern or gay or lesbian, get out of here. Or if you're Persian, or if you're from India, or you're Asian, they accept you if you're gay or lesbian. Get out of here. It's understood that they're not going to accept me. And I can't change my orientation, so I have to move on and be part of a community that is more so centered around our sexual orientation more than anything else. How many stories have I heard with the whole, the son got disowned from the family because of his sexual orientation. So it's only his mom and maybe his sister that talks to him. The father, the brothers don't mess with him. And the mom and the sister, they have to talk to him on the down low. Because he can't come up to the house. So they have those secret Sunday sort of lunches or whatever where mom and son can talk. But dad doesn't want to see him. He's been kicked out the family or whatever. Or with the daughter or whatever. So you have those scenarios. Because I've met some people who have those similar sort of stories. With, the people you meet through college, through work or the classroom or whatever. So you've heard these stories. So you don't hear the horror stories at the end of the day because it's just understood that, it's just not going to happen. In order for me to be accepted in terms of that racial or ethnic group, I have to fit into that standard mold. Mold A or mold B. There's no alternative. If you're not doing that, you're going to get kicked out. There's no negotiation, so it is what it is. So if I want to be part of a different mold, I have to find a new community. And this, I feel like, gets completely blown over when you're looking at, those who are black and gay and lesbian. Because you have this sort of, once again, we want to be whoever we want to be, whether it's gay or lesbian or some other alternate sort of lifestyle, right? And have this idea that we should all be accepted into the black home, the black collective, which is one of the reasons why we don't fucking go anywhere. There's no standard in terms of what we have to be. I want to be mold D. I want to be mold E. I want to be mold 1. I want to be mold F, mold Z. There's no standard molds that men and women have to follow. So people want to do whatever they want to do, but be accepted into the fold. It doesn't work that way. Now, granted, the black community, it may be a pseudo community, depending on how you want to look at it. I like to think that it's really not a community, right? I know others feel the same way, just more so a group of people who happen to be living by each other. But whatever semblance of a community that we do have, we've said, well, we don't accept the whole gay or lesbian lifestyle. So it is what it is. So you're better suited doing the whole, well, it's best if we form a community or join one that's based off of our sexual orientation. Because the mainstream is not accepting of it and they're not going to budge. But this idea of, oh, we're not accepted, and it's such a black thing, I'm sitting there and I'm like, yo, everybody has the same fucking problem. Why are you trying to act like it's a black issue? Our shit is already bad, but to add to it and to put dubs on shit, like, come on now. Every group has that same problem. Go ahead and show me a group where they're open and they're accommodating. It's spotty with white America. Spotty, at best. In terms of those who are accepting of the gay and lesbian lifestyle. But it is what it is. Hence your cities or your areas within a city that are quote-unquote gay-friendly or lesbian-friendly or whatever. Hence that sort of a subgroup or culture, whatever you want to call it, that is exclusively based on sexual orientation. Because it's understood that, we're not going to fit in with our own race or ethnic background. It's as simple as that. So you're not going to hear the stories about how hard it is to be Middle Eastern and gay, or Middle Eastern and lesbian. You're just not going to. And you would think that's pretty simple. Moving on, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the whole idea of the family and the community. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, if I'm, let's say, Persian and gay and lesbian, and I'm getting kicked out of my family or community, that's tough. I'm getting kicked out of the family will. Here's the wealth, the financial gain, the resources. I'm not going to get the condo. I'm not going to get the car. I'm not going to work for the family business and one day take it over. I'm getting kicked out of an established community. So I'm looking at that sort of, damn. That is that's a tough cost to pay. Because you guys have that structure that you're getting kicked out of. So I can understand how that could be difficult and why you kind of want to hope that they would be accepting of what you have. But I'm sitting there and I'm looking at black folks. What culture or community are you getting kicked out of? You're getting kicked out of a broken community. Crime, poor education, limited opportunities, poor housing, just shitty across the board. So you're upset because you're not fitting in with that. Or the whole concept of, wealth and inheritance. Well, guess what? We don't have generational wealth, so it's not like you're missing out on anything. Most of us don't know our fathers, and, some of us are lucky to even know what state our father's in. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, yo, if you were getting kicked out of the family or the community, how bad is it when the shit's already in disarray compared to the Asian community or another community? But yet you want to sit here and tell me that it's one thing to be gay or lesbian, but to be black and gay and lesbian, oh, it's just the worst of the worst? How so? Oh, my uncle's not going to hire me, or, I'm not going to work for the family company. We don't own shit like that. Dad's not going to turn over the company to me anymore. We don't have that. Mom and dad aren't going to pay for my car. Mom and dad aren't going to pay for my condo. We don't have that. So how bad is it? Once again, I've had conversations and I've been part of conversations where I'm listening to those who are gay or lesbian talk about what it is and how difficult it is. Or I'm talking to, let's say, a classmate who may have a brother or a sister who's gay or lesbian, and they're talking about how they're not part of the family and what they're missing out on and what their parents aren't going to do. So that's tangible. I've heard the stories. But you flip it around to black folks, it's not there. So going back to what I said before in terms of the beginning of the video, relatively speaking, how can you say it's the hardest or it's up there? Off of what grounds are you using to make that claim? No one is saying that it's just not, that it's simple and it's not difficult, right, to be gay or lesbian just generally. But going back to what I said before about the conversation about it being just the worst of the worst because you're black, how is that possible? Because I guarantee you, if we came up with a rubric or a standard or like a scale to determine who has it the hardest, I would be more so inclined to think that black folks will be on the lower end in terms of how difficult it is because we have no sort of community established. Barely holding on to the family structure. Economically, we're in disarray. Communities are in disarray. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, how hard is it? To the point where you can say that it's harder than any other group. So that's my video. I mean, it is what it is. I'll wait for the response. Hopefully people can, stay on the actual topic that I brought up and not just jump into the sort of how it's hard to be gay or lesbian generally. I'm not saying that at all, that it's easy. We're talking about the whole, it's one thing to be gay or lesbian, but to be black and gay and lesbian, this is the worst of the worst. How so? In what way? So, y'all take it easy. Y'all know where to find me. God bless.